What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Swiss College Football. We're officially into week 11, and you know what that means, we've got MACtion. If you're new to college football, MACtion refers to those midweek MAC conference games that happen on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and they can get absolutely wild. They're unpredictable, full of chaos, and usually a ton of fun to watch. And yeah, we're officially deep into MACtion season now, and I've got 2 games on Tuesday night that I've already bet on. What could possibly go wrong betting both MAC games on a Tuesday night, right? It's the definition of reckless behavior, but hey, that's what makes it fun. So, let's dive in and break these games down in detail. First up, we've got the big one, Miami of Ohio versus Ohio. The Redhawks taking on the Bobcats in what's probably the MAC game of the year. For those who didn't follow MAC football last season, these two teams have some serious history. They faced each other twice last year, once in the regular season, where Miami of Ohio came out on top 30-20, and then again in the MAC championship game, where Ohio got their revenge in a major way. That one was a total beatdown, and as someone who had money on Miami in that game, trust me, it hurt. But that loss has turned into fuel for this Redhawks team, and they've been rolling ever since. Right now, Miami of Ohio has won 11 consecutive MAC regular season games. 11 straight. That streak is still alive and well heading into this week. Remember, the MAC championship doesn't count as a regular season game, so the streak is still intact. Now, if Ohio wins this matchup, and they are favored to do so, it could set up a fascinating rematch scenario where these two teams meet again in this year's conference championship. In fact, if that happens, it would be the 4th time they've played each other in just 2 years. Miami enters this one sitting at 4-0 in the conference, while Ohio is 3-1. A Bobcats win would tie them up in the standings, but with the tiebreaker in hand, Ohio would control their destiny the rest of the way. But here's the thing, playing in Athens is never easy. Ohio protects its home turf as well as anyone in the country. Since 2022, the Bobcats are 21-1 in their last 22 home games and 16-6 against the spread during that span. That's remarkable consistency. And if you're wondering who gave them that one home loss, yep, it was Miami of Ohio, last season. You better believe head coach Brian Smith hasn't forgotten that. He's reportedly been reminding his players all week that the only home loss on their record in the last 4 seasons came against that school out west, referring to the Redhawks. The motivation here is real, and we've got a genuine rivalry game on our hands. Now, the key matchup in this one is going to be Ohio's high-powered offense against Miami's elite defense. The Redhawks have developed a bit of a pattern over the years. They usually start the season against a tough non-conference schedule, often facing Power 4 teams, and their defensive numbers look average early on. But once conference play hits, they lock in and become one of the best defenses in the MAC. This year is no different. Through 4 conference games, they're allowing just 17 points per game, with a 36.4% success rate and only 4.9 yards per play. They've been locked in, disciplined, physical, and very hard to move the ball against. On the other side, Ohio brings in arguably the best offense in the conference. I mean, they're the reigning MAC champions, and they've been lighting up the scoreboard all year. In conference games, they're averaging over 31 points per game with a 47.5% success rate and 6.6 yards per play. And when they're at home, they take it to another level, 41.2 points per game, over 51% success rate, and 7.2 yards per play. Those are elite numbers, and they've come against respectable competition. Northern Illinois, for example, isn't a bad defensive team, but the Bobcats still rolled up points on them. But here's where things could get interesting. Miami of Ohio's defensive front can generate pressure without blitzing, and that's critical. Ohio quarterback Parker Navarro has great numbers against the blitz. If you bring extra rushers and don't get home, he'll carve you up. But when pressured by just the front 4, he can struggle. He tends to hold onto the football a bit too long, which gives Miami's pass rush an opportunity to cause trouble. And let's not forget, Ohio hasn't really faced a defense this good since their matchup with Ohio State earlier in the year. Most of their opponents have been mediocre defensively, so this is a real test. I'm not saying Ohio's offense will completely stall, far from it, but this Miami defense is capable of limiting explosive plays, forcing long drives, and creating third down pressure. If they can do that, they'll hang around all night. On the flip side, when Miami has the ball, I actually think they might have a small edge here. Ohio's defense, while decent, isn't what it was last season. They lost most of their starters from that championship team, and it shows. In MAC play, they're allowing 20.5 points per game and over 5.5 yards per play. Not terrible, but nowhere near elite. And then there's the injury situation for the Bobcats. Their two leading tacklers, safety Adonis Williams Jr. and linebacker Michael Molnar, both left last week's game against Eastern Michigan with injuries. Both are listed as questionable for this one, and it sounds like Molnar's status is in real doubt. Add to that another linebacker, Cameron Hollow, who's already missed time and is also questionable, and suddenly the depth on that defense is shaky. That's not what you want against a confident Miami team. Now, the Redhawks' offense isn't exactly explosive, but they've got one of the top quarterbacks in the MAC in DeCowan Finn, and he's starting to find his rhythm. He's coming off his two best games of the season against Eastern and Western Michigan, putting up efficient passing numbers and handling pressure well. That's huge because they lost their star running back, Kenny Tracy, a few weeks ago. The backup backs have stepped up admirably, but having Finn in form gives them a real shot here. Ohio's defense isn't dominant enough to shut him down, and I think Miami will find just enough offensive rhythm to stay competitive. I personally think the line on this game is too high. Anything above a field goal feels off. I grabbed Miami of Ohio at plus 3.5, and I love that number. I wouldn't play it at plus 2.5, but if you can still find a flat plus 3, that's solid value. The revenge angle, the injuries, and Miami's defensive strength, it all lines up. I also lean slightly toward the under 50.5, since both teams play slower tempos and like to establish the run. But to be honest, betting unders in Ohio games always feels risky because of how many explosive plays they generate. Still, I can see this one turning into a grind-it-out, defensive battle. My final position, Miami of Ohio plus 3.5. Now, let's move to the other Tuesday night game, UMass vs. Akron. I bet this one, too, and it was a pretty straightforward call for me. This matchup screams points. Both of these teams play fast and throw the ball a ton. UMass ranks 10th nationally in pace and 13th in pass frequency, while Akron ranks 37th and 42nd respectively. That's a recipe for a ton of possessions. We could easily see 14+ drives per team in this game. When you've got that many chances, even bad offenses tend to stumble into points. Now, I know what you're thinking, UMass's offense has been dreadful lately. And you're not wrong. In their last two games, they've averaged just 17 points per game, 4.43 yards per play, and under a 28% success rate. That's bad football. But context matters. Look at who they've played: Central Michigan, Buffalo, Kent State, and Western Michigan. All of those teams are run-first, slow-paced offenses. Despite that, UMass still found themselves in games that hit the 50-point mark. So now, facing a fast-paced, pass-heavy Akron team, the dynamic changes completely. Defensively, Akron's recent numbers against the pass look pretty solid, under 191 yards per game allowed in their last four. But again, context. Those games were all against teams that barely throw the ball. When Akron actually faced a passing offense, like UAB back in Week 3, they got torched for 341 yards and 31 points. UMass isn't good, but they throw enough and play fast enough to put up a couple of touchdowns here. And in a game with this many possessions, that might be all they need to help push the total over. On the other side, I expect Akron's offense to have a good day. Quarterback Ben Finley is quietly settling in. Over his last 4 games, he's averaging 246 yards per game. Not eye-popping, but solid considering he's been facing much tougher defenses than what he'll see here. UMass's secondary has been awful recently, allowing over 268 passing yards per game and a ridiculous 11.1 yards per attempt in their last 3 outings. They're getting carved up by run-first offenses like Buffalo and Kent State. Against a team that actually throws the ball. Yeah, I think Akron will find a rhythm early and often. There's also a chance Akron gets back their star wide receiver, Alex Adams. This guy transferred in from LSU and was a stud in 2022, 63 catches, 885 yards, 9 touchdowns. He hasn't played since getting injured last season, but he's been listed as questionable for 2 straight weeks now. Even if he's limited, just having him on the field opens things up. With or without him, I still expect the Zips to move the ball effectively through the air. So, where's the play? I took the over at 48.5. It's since ticked up to 49.5, but I'd still play it there. I'd personally make this total around 52.5 based on the pace and volume of possessions we're likely to see. Neither defense is built to handle this kind of tempo or passing volume, and both quarterbacks should have opportunities to move the ball. So to wrap it all up, for Tuesday night Maction, I'm on Miami of Ohio plus 3.5 in what should be a gritty, defensive rivalry battle, and I'm taking the over 48.5 in UMass versus Akron because I think both offenses can find success in the air and generate enough possessions to push this total higher. 2 bets, both on a Tuesday night. What could go wrong, right? That's it for this one. If you made it this far, you're a real one. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, remember to bet responsibly and keep it fun. I'll be live again at midnight Eastern to talk college basketball, so if you can make it, jump in the chat, would love to see you there. Until then, let's cash some tickets and enjoy some good old-fashioned Maction. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.